Chapter 51. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Eyes can't speak. Uchiha Xingliu didn't understand what Senju Yosuke did at all. He scratched his head, almost hitting a question mark on his head. Uzumaki Mito looked at this scene, a smile on her face, and the sigh in her heart was a little less, for her. Both Uchiha Xingliu and Senju Yosuke were children. Now seeing their interesting interaction, it also swept away some of the haze in her heart. Uzumaki Mito walked in front of Uchiha Xingliu and touched his head, and said slowly. Is this child the witness you mentioned? Uchiha Xingliu nodded after hearing this, and Uzumaki Mito, who got the answer, turned to Nono. Looking at her nervous look, he showed a kind smile and said with a smile. Don't be nervous, I am Uzumaki Mito, no one can hurt you here. Can you tell me your name? Nono is an orphan, but Uzumaki Mito's name has been heard. When her clan members were gossiping, they talked about Uzumaki Mito, saying that she was the wife of the first generation. As the wife of the Hokage, she would definitely be able to protect her and Uchiha Xingliu from harm, so her heart, which had been high since Uchiha Xingliu stood up for him, slowly fell to the ground. The nervousness also dissipated a lot. Nono looked up at Uzumaki Mito, and finally turned around and looked at Uchiha Xingliu. After thinking for a while, she spoke. Mito-sama, my name is Yakushi Nono, I can testify in court. But you have to ensure the safety of us, okay? Hearing Nono's words, Uzumaki Mito smiled even more brightly. They are my children, of course I will protect them, and you are no exception. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Nono's eyes were moistened when he heard the words, and then small golden beans fell one by one. This sentence "I'll take care of everything" completely broke her heart. As a child, she always hoped that there would be someone to protect her from wind and rain every time she encountered difficulties. Not to mention this kind of thing that can affect her fate, and Uzumaki Mito's words are telling her that I can become this big umbrella to protect her from the sun. This made her unable to control her inner emotions and she cried silently. Uzumaki Mito also knew the child's suffering, and did not say anything big, but just quietly held her in his arms. Uzumaki Mito could not stop the sadness from happening, but she could give a warm embrace to make Nono no longer so uncomfortable. Tsunade pouted on the side, a little jealous, but she is also a sensible person, knowing that Nono is very uncomfortable now and needs comfort from others. After a while, Nono stopped crying. Uzumaki Mito gently patted Nono's back and then let her go. Then he said to Uchiha Xingliu, who had been eating melons on the side. Take Nono to tidy up, I will take you to the Jonin meeting later. Uchiha Xingliu pointed at himself in surprise and said. I want to go too. Uzumaki Mito laughed and explained. As the discoverer of this incident and the witness of the attack just now, you should go. Hearing this, Uchiha Xingliu was a little bit of a muggle. He had done enough things today. If he continued like this, he felt that 996 was waving at him. But what Uzumaki Mito said was not wrong. Uchiha Xingliu discovered the incident and reported it to Uzumaki Mito, and he was a witness to the whole process of the whole incident, so it was most appropriate for him to explain what happened. Thinking of this, Uchiha Xingliu sighed for his own difficulties. He was only 6 years old, and he wanted to be lazy. What crime did he commit? This also made him more determined that he wanted to be a hands-off boss. Leave the work to others and disappear, then watch others get angry and enjoy the pleasure of laziness. This is a win-win situation. Uchiha Xingliu wins twice. After sighing for a while, he returned to reality. After sighing, he listlessly pulled Nono to tidy up. Uzumaki Mito looked at him with amusement, and didn't know what to say for a while. Although Uchiha Xingliu was very diligent in learning and practicing during this period of time, but when it comes to other things, he will become more lazy, and she didn't say it, but she was actually preparing him as the next generation of Hokage. He could think of ways to solve the few things that Uchiha Xingliu had experienced. There was no problem with his own strength, whether it was this attack or the last time he appeared in the sky of Konoha. Mito Uzumaki still remembers the fireworks. This strength is totally abnormal. She even doubts whether Uchiha Xingliu has opened the Mangekyo. It's just that it's not confirmed, so Mito Uzumaki can't make a hasty judgment. As of now, Uchiha Xingliu is qualified to be Hokage in all aspects. The only problem is that he is too young. It's impossible for him to be Hokage, but he can be trained as the next generation. Should we wait until he comes of age? Otherwise, give him the Hokage at the age of 14. Let him graduate now, put him by my side to handle official business for me, it seems not bad. In terms of slacking off, Mito Uzumaki is not to be outdone, although the matter has basically been determined, the next generation or acting Hokage must be her, but she hasn't become the Hokage yet, and she's already thinking about how to slack off. Uchiha Madara is here, and she has to be called the strongest slacking king. People are different. The position of Hokage can be said to be the highest symbol of power in Konoha. Some people are greedy for power for decades and are unwilling to let go, while others abandon it. At this time, Uchiha Xingliu was taking Nono to wash his face, and suddenly felt a strong chill. He looked around, but didn't find anything wrong. This made Uchiha Xingliu blink his eyes and look dazed, not knowing what happened. But he didn't know that his dream of being a hands-off shopkeeper had not yet begun, and it was almost realized by others. But he was the one who was left behind. After thinking about it, he didn't know the source of this chill, so Uchiha Xingliu simply didn't think about it. Nono had also finished tidying up at this time, so he took her back downstairs. After meeting up with Uzumaki Mito, they started to go to the Hokage building to settle the matter. Along the way, the streets that were usually crowded with people were also sparsely populated. Only some ninjas who were going to attend the Jonin conference walked towards the Hokage building, and when these Jonin saw Uzumaki Mito, they all greeted him. At this moment, a chubby ninja came to Uzumaki Mito and said, "Mito-sama, what happened this time? Why did you suddenly call a Jonin conference?" Uzumaki Mito looked at it, and then said with some emotion, "It's Tsufun, the weather may change this time." Chapter 52. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Akimichi Tofu's honest face was originally full of smiles, but as Uzumaki Mito finished speaking, his smile disappeared all of a sudden. "Has anything big happened?" Uzumaki Mito looked at him, but instead of answering the question, he asked, "Are the village's defense measures still complete?" Hearing this, Akimichi Tofu realized the seriousness of the problem. Uzumaki Mito was asking him what would happen if a major incident occurred in the village. It might even be so serious that it would cause unrest in Konoha and cause others to spy on it. He, the senior ninja responsible for defending Konoha, needed to prevent this. This moment might be the most serious moment since Akimichi Tofu took charge of the defense of Konohagakure. "Please rest assured, Mito-sama, all of Konoha's defense measures can stand the test." Uzumaki Mito nodded, and then answered his initial question. Someone in the village attacked the child, and it was a high-ranking official in Konoha. But the most important thing is that the third Hokage is likely to be involved. Hearing this, Akimichi Tofu's face was full of surprise, and he looked at her in disbelief. He could not imagine that what he heard with his own ears was such shocking news. It was hard to believe that a high-ranking official attacked the child. Why was even the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen involved in this matter? But Uzumaki Mito would not joke about such things. A meeting of Jonin had actually been held, so there must be key evidence. Then, a person's face flashed through Akimichi Tofu's mind. "Danzo, is that you?" Thinking of this, although he found it difficult to accept for a while, as a member of the second Hokage's Shadow Guard, he had a good relationship with several other members of the Shadow Guard. Otherwise, the third Hokage would not have kept him in charge of the defense of the hidden village after he took office. If this incident is confirmed, as their friend, he will be caught in the middle. Neither side is right. Uzumaki Mito seemed to sense his difficulty and stepped forward to comfort him. "You don't need to express your opinion on this matter, you just need to witness it. It's getting late, let's walk faster." Then he turned around and pulled Uchiha Tsuryu and Nono, quickening his pace. Akimichi Tofu looked at the people walking away, standing there, not knowing what he was thinking. His face kept changing. Then, he exhaled heavily and walked towards the Hokage building, but the sound of his steps was no longer as brisk as before, but became heavier. When Uchiha Tsuryu and others arrived at the meeting place, most people had already arrived. Sarutobi Hiruzen stood at the highest point, his face uncertain. The three people who had always stood behind him before, now only Udatane Koharu and Mito Kato and Danzo has been nowhere to be seen. The suddenly convened Jonin meeting, Danzo was late, which gave him a bad premonition. Just when Sarutobi Hiruzen felt more and more that something was wrong, the meeting began. Uzumaki Mito stood up, with a serious expression and no smile. She was completely different from her usual self. She looked around, and under her gaze, the crowd that was just whispering quieted down. I convened this Jonin meeting, and the purpose of summoning you is also very simple. A high-ranking official attacked the children in the village, and he has already succeeded in getting some of them. As soon as the voice fell, the hot-tempered Jonin couldn't help but curse. Who is the one who has no py to give birth to a son? We are fighting on the front line, and he is in the back. I will beat him out of his shit, beat him into his shit, and finally beat him with his shit. For a while, the whole meeting room was filled with dirty words. Uzumaki Mito frowned. She could understand these dirty words, but what made her frown was that she found that Danzo had not arrived yet. In contrast, the Uchiha clan leader and many Uchiha Jonin had not come yet. However, now that the meeting had begun, she could not leave and could only trust the Uchiha. At this time, the exploding dirty words had been almost said, and those hot-tempered Jonin gradually calmed down. Enough, next I will let Uchiha Xingliu who discovered this matter tell the cause and effect. After saying that, Uzumaki Mito turned his head and glanced at Uchiha Xingliu, motioning him to come forward and explain the whole thing. Uchiha Xingliu sighed secretly. This overtime day is too hard. However, he still walked to the front and began to talk about what happened, from discovering that Nono, a classmate, was not right, to thinking whether someone had attacked her, then to asking the Hokage for help, and finally protecting he was ambushed while protecting Nono, as Uchiha Xingliu was talking. Nono also joined in and confirmed that what he said was true. The people in the conference room became more and more silent as they listened, because things started to get weird when it came to the Hokage, especially when Uchiha Xingliu said at the end that they were attacked after they found the Hokage. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that the Hokage was involved in this matter. When the third Hokage saw Uchiha Xingliu come on stage to explain the situation, his face began to darken. After hearing the latter part, he could no longer hold back, his emotions fluctuated violently, and he broke the pipe in his hand. The two people behind him also looked at the man in front of them in disbelief. They didn't want to believe that this man who had always dreamed of becoming a Hokage had done such a depraved thing. When Uchiha Xingliu finished speaking, everyone present was silent. Some people were afraid of offending the Hokage, but some were organizing their words. The next moment, the head of the Hyuga clan stood up, and with him were the heads of many small clans. I wonder if Lord Hokage has any explanation. Sarutobi Hiruzen was speechless for a moment. If he said that only Uchiha Tsuryu came to him at that time, he could still fool around, but at that time, it was Uzumaki Mito who brought him here, so he couldn't hide it. Uzumaki Mito would not lie about such things. Not only that, they also had witnesses. According to Nono, she could even identify Danzo, so how could he refute it? At this time, his heart was full of regret. Not only did he regret why he gave the warrant to Danzo, but he also regretted not listening to Danzo and getting rid of Uchiha Tsuryu at that time. But Sarutobi Hiruzen had not given up yet. As long as it was not confirmed that he informed Danzo and asked him to silence him, even if his position as Hokage was lost, he could be exempted from other punishments. But once it was confirmed, the lightest punishment would be life imprisonment. After all, they attacked so many children, and the order was to silence them. It would be a blessing to be alive, Sarutobi Hiruzen thought for a while, and when he was about to start to argue, the door of the conference room was suddenly opened. Uchiha Ong walked in with disheveled clothes and injuries on his body. Chapter 53. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Behind him, the other Uchiha came in with injuries. Everyone in the meeting room looked over and saw the last Uchiha to come in, dragging a disheveled figure. When that person looked up, everyone present took a breath of cold air. This person was Danzo Shimura, who did not attend the meeting. At this time, Danzo Shimura had long lost his former demeanor. Not only were his clothes torn, but even one of his arms was broken off at the root. The wound, which had been simply treated, was still bleeding. His eyes were dull, and people could tell at a glance that he was controlled by an illusion. Uchiha Ong walked to Mito Uzumaki and said loudly, "Michito-sama, we have completed your mission, the children are safe, and the culprit has been caught." Mito Uzumaki breathed a sigh of relief when he heard that the children were safe, but seeing that every Uchiha was injured, he asked worriedly, "Did you suffer any losses?" Uchiha Ong and the Uchiha behind him were silent when they heard this, but finally said, "Our clan leader was seriously injured in the battle against Danzo to protect the children." Although the injury was not serious enough to kill him, I'm afraid he won't be able to be a ninja anymore. In addition, we also encountered the desperate resistance of the Root, and several clan members died in the battle. But fortunately, the children were fine except for being a little frightened. After hearing this, Uzumaki Mido felt sad for a while. In her eyes, no matter whether it was the ninja of the Root or the Uchiha, they should not be sacrificed in the internal struggle. After the sadness, anger followed, angry that Danzo, as a high-ranking official in the village, would actually have thoughts about innocent children, angry that he had solid evidence, but he still fought desperately and dragged others into the water. Angry that Sarutobi Hiruzen, as the Hokage, would actually protect a guilty person. In the end, she was angry at herself for not knowing the right person and letting Sarutobi become the Hokage, which led to today's disaster. As the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, the strongest person in Konoha today, although Uzumaki Mido's power is not as strong as Hashirama's, it is not weak either. Chakra gushed out with the owner's unstable mood, forming a substantial ability that entangled Mido's body. When Mido was angry, everyone present felt that a disaster was coming, and even their bodies subconsciously tightened. Uchiha Tsuryu was not affected at all. Although his chakra was not as good as Uzumaki Mido's, it was not far behind. He walked to the angry Mido and pulled her. With this pull, Uzumaki Mido immediately reacted, and the majestic chakra gradually dissipated. If the ground where she stood had not cracked slightly, everything just now seemed like a dream. Everyone in the conference room looked at Uzumaki Mido with lingering fear. Being able to be the vessel of the Nine Tails means that Uzumaki Mido has a lot of chakra. Ninjas with a lot of chakra are generally not weak. In the past, these jonin only knew that Uzumaki Mido was strong, but they didn't expect him to be so strong. Just the momentum when he was angry made them feel unmatched. At this time, Uzumaki Mido had sorted out her emotions. Now she wanted to solve this matter thoroughly. Just like Hashirama Senju, she would not let go of anyone who destroyed the village, no matter who it was. She walked in front of Danzo, looked at his lifeless eyes, and said thoughtfully, "Has he been controlled by the illusion?" Uchiha was also surprised by Mido's strength. Now hearing her question, he quickly answered, "Yes, but Danzo's strength is not weak. Our illusion can only make him stop resisting. We can't use illusion to make him confess everything." Uzumaki Mido nodded when he heard it, indicating that he knew. Then she didn't see her making a seal, and the seals instantly swept Danzo's body. The next moment, it disappeared again. After doing all this, Uzumaki Mido turned his head and looked at Uchiha, who was a little shocked, and said, "I have sealed his chakra, can I do it now?" Uchiha nodded dully, and then shuddered. In the blink of an eye, the chakra of an elite ninja was sealed. It can't be said to be so terrifying. I can only take a breath. No matter what you say in the future, you must not offend this woman. Uchiha muttered to himself, and came to Danzo and opened his Sharingan to look him in the eye. After confirming that Danzo had been hypnotized, he signaled to Uzumaki Mido that it was time to start. Uzumaki Mido looked at this disciple of Tobirama, and after a moment of silence, he said, "Have you ever attacked the children in the village? What is your purpose for doing so?" Although Danzo had been hypnotized, his strength was still quite strong. When he heard this question that was almost about life and death, he struggled with a hideous look on his face. Uzumaki Mido was not in a hurry either. A ninja with sealed chakra, no matter how strong he was, could not withstand the hypnosis of the Sharingan. Sure enough, after a while, Danzo's face returned to calm. He slowly opened his mouth and said the answer to the question. "Yes, those orphans can be used by me, and it is their glory to contribute to Konoha." As soon as the voice fell, the whole conference room was in an uproar. "You really deserve to die. 1,000 deaths are not enough. We joined Konoha just so that our families and children would not be in danger like Sengoku. What are you doing? Execute him. Yes, execute him." Time's end. As soon as these words came out, the noisy voices in the conference room suddenly became unified, and the voices of executing Danzo gathered together. When Sarutobi Hiruzen saw Danzo being brought in, he had already collapsed in his chair. He knew that he was doomed this time. The neat sound of execution in the conference room now made him think of his own end. Amidst the cheers, the head fell to the ground. Uzumaki Mido was terrifyingly calm at this time. She was not affected by the sound, slapped the table heavily, and said loudly, "Quiet, there are still questions." Everyone heard that there were still questions, and they immediately quieted down. Uzumaki Mito saw that the situation was restored, and continued to question Danzo. How did you manage to avoid being discovered? How did you know that the plan was exposed in the end? Danzo might also know that he was finished, but this time he did not resist at all. I only attack orphans without families, or families that are not eligible to attend the Jonin conference. Sarutobi gave me the Hokage's warrant, and these people dare not resist the Hokage's orders. In the end, it was Sarutobi who notified me and let me know that the plan failed. In contrast to the noise just now, Danzo's words this time made the conference room as quiet as if no one was there, although it was expected that the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen would be involved, but I didn't expect that he could be an accomplice. The Jonin present was in hesitation for a while. Chapter 54. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Jonin and clan leaders may have concerns, but Uzumaki Mito has no such idea. After hearing Danzo's words, her sharp eyes turned to Sarutobi Hiruzen. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to say something, but he didn't know how to say it. Danzo had already said everything, and the ironclad facts were already in front of him. Whatever he said now would be wrong. Looking at the disappointment in Uzumaki Mito's eyes, he couldn't help but think of what she had said a few times before. Little monkey, don't let me down. Monkey, you are the Hokage. His body shook, and he finally understood that Uzumaki Mito had been giving him opportunities from beginning to end. It was he who was blinded by power and walked step by step to an irreversible point. After figuring it all out, Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled bitterly. He thought he would give everything for the village, but he didn't expect that one day he would end up as a sinner. He took off the Hokage's hat and put it aside, then, under the gaze of everyone, he walked step by step to the side of Danzo and to the position of the prisoner. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at his best friend in a state of embarrassment, and all his resentment and hatred disappeared. As a Hokage, he is undoubtedly unqualified. In the future, Konoha will become weaker and weaker under his leadership. No matter in which aspect, Sarutobi Hiruzen has more faults than merits. But Sarutobi Hiruzen undoubtedly loves the village, so now everything is settled. He can't resist or even kill people. In the village, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked around, looked at the angry and disappointed eyes of the senior ninjas, and couldn't help but lower his eyes. Is all this over? Thinking of this, he suddenly thought of Uchiha Xingliu and his first meeting with this kid. He also thought of how he was influenced by him indirectly or directly, and came to this point step by step. A strong sense of resentment surged in his heart. At this moment, he seemed to understand why Mr. Tobirama always called the Uchiha clan an evil clan. For the sake of the village, this brat must not be left alive. In a fit of rage, Sarutobi Hiruzen decided to take Uchiha Tsuryu away even at the cost of his own life. He secretly made a few seals, trying to release the ninjutsu, but he underestimated Uzumaki Mito. When she saw Sarutobi Hiruzen walking to the judgment seat, she thought he was going to surrender and let down her guard, but when she felt the sudden increase in evil thoughts in Sarutobi Hiruzen, she reacted. As soon as Sarutobi Hiruzen finished making the seals, her Vajra seal bound him, but in the end, Sarutobi Hiruzen still released this ninjutsu, Shiki Fujin. Uzumaki Mito was horrified. As a member of the Uzumaki clan, he knew that this technique was a vicious sealing technique that would destroy both parties. The essence of this god of death is a sealing technique, which can even capture souls, let alone chakra. Uzumaki Mito, who recognized this technique, was about to quickly retract the diamond seal, when he saw Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly standing still without moving, and the invisible god of death behind him was slowly dissipating. The Uchiha clan looked at Uchiha Tsuryu in shock. When Uzumaki Mito interrogated Danzo, Uchiha Tsuryu thought that he had nothing to do, so he just watched the show from the side, but he didn't expect that the melon would be eaten on his head the next second. When Sarutobi Hiruzen was about to take action, he felt a strong killing intent coming towards him. He secretly opened the Mangekyo and released a small-scale flame with destructive properties, burning through the space around Sarutobi Hiruzen. Just when Sarutobi Hiruzen performed the Shiki Fujin and wanted to take him away, the gap in space tore Sarutobi Hiruzen's body apart, and he died in an instant. If it were normal times, Sarutobi Hiruzen would have noticed it earlier. At present, it still takes some time for Uchiha Tsuryu's Mangekyo to burn through space, so this technique can injure Sarutobi Hiruzen. but it is impossible to kill him directly, but now his brain is swept by all kinds of emotions, and he can no longer think and fight calmly. He lost his original vigilance. So he was taken away by Uchiha Tsuryu. For Uchiha Tsuryu, Sarutobi Hiruzen's life and death are irrelevant, but if he attacks me and wants to take me to death, don't blame him for being ruthless. All this is said slowly, but everything is actually over in a few seconds. The senior ninjas only saw Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly perform a technique called Shiki Fujin, and then Uzumaki Mito controlled him with a chain shining with golden light. Then Sarutobi Hiruzen stopped. The death god summoned by Shiki Fujin is invisible to others except the caster and the captured person, and Uchiha Xingliu's method was quite secretive, and he used tiny space cracks to kill. So apart from the Uchiha who felt a pupil power far exceeding 3 Magatama, even Mito didn't notice that Sarutobi Hiruzen was dead. The strength of this pupil power is undoubtedly a realm that can only be reached by the Mangekyo, so the Uchiha present would look at the source of this pupil power, Uchiha Xingliu, and with the death of Sarutobi Hiruzen, the chakra in his body gradually disappeared. Uzumaki Mito, who possessed the Kagura Heart Eye, still noticed the death of Sarutobi Hiruzen. She was shocked, not knowing what emotion was lingering in her heart. She and Sarutobi Hiruzen had a good relationship, otherwise she would not support him to become Hokage. Although she knew that Sarutobi could not escape death this time, she was still a little sad when she really faced it, but she also understood that this was not the time to be sad. Sarutobi Hiruzen's death was a fact, and the next step was to deal with the mess left behind. Thinking of this, Uzumaki Mito suppressed her emotions. Then she glanced at Uchiha Tsuryu who was pretending to know nothing. Even without the Sharingan, she could guess that Uchiha Tsuryu had opened the Mangekyo, but she had to keep this news a secret for him, otherwise there would be endless assassinations in the future. The Kages of the other 4 countries would not want another Uchiha Madara to appear. Once the news of Uchiha Tsuryu's Mangekyo at the age of 6 was exposed, even if he was able to protect himself, but even if there was a glimmer of hope, the other countries would strangle him to death in the cradle. Fortunately, the people present did not understand what had just happened. Otherwise, with so many people, she would have no way to prevent the news from leaking out. It was normal for Sarutobi Hiruzen to be tied up by Mito's diamond seal and unable to move, but he said nothing, which made the people present realize that something was wrong. More and more people were whispering. Uzumaki Mito knew that she couldn't wait any longer. She controlled the chains to lay the dead Sarutobi Hiruzen flat, took a deep breath and said, "Sarutobi Hiruzen is dead." Chapter 55. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Before the conference room exploded, Uzumaki Mito continued. Sarutobi Hiruzen performed the Shiki Fujin, which is a ninjutsu that kills both parties. I couldn't hold back. Although everyone present had some guesses, and Uzumaki Mito also explained, but when they really heard about the death of the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, they couldn't help but show a horrified expression, especially Mito Kato and Yutain Koharu. After Uzumaki Mito finished speaking, they no longer cared about their status as consultants. They ran to Sarutobi Hiruzen and looked at him sadly. They didn't expect that their best friend who had gone through difficulties with them would fall in the position of Hokage. The first generation of ninja heroes ended before it even began, but they couldn't blame Uzumaki Mito, not to mention that their status was not enough. Just look at the situation just now. Sarutobi Hiruzen released ninjutsu in public and tried to attack Uchiha Tsuryu. Uzumaki Mito's behavior of stopping him was legitimate defense, reasonable and legal, not to mention. Sarutobi Hiruzen was also a participant in the kidnapping of the child. Yutain Koharu opened her mouth to say something, but Mito Katakawa shook her head at her. He turned around, looked at Uzumaki Mito and said, "Mito-sama, since the chief criminal Sarutobi Hiruzen has been executed, let us deal with his body." Uzumaki Mito naturally agreed to this request. When a person dies, it is like a light going out. No matter how great the sin is, after a person dies, he will follow him into the underworld. It will only leave a bad reputation for thousands of years. After seeing Uzumaki Mito agree, the two of them hugged Sarutobi Hiruzen's body and left silently under the gaze of everyone. They didn't want to watch this meeting anymore. Danzo was also their friend, and he would not be able to escape death next. The death of a close friend had already made them very sad, and they couldn't watch Danzo die here with their own eyes. But they couldn't change the ending, so they chose to escape. after they left, Uzumaki Mito sighed again. This was the nth time she sighed today. The Hokage was originally there to protect the village, but now he has been turned into a person who hurts the village by Sarutobi Hiruzen. This made Uzumaki Mito understand that only a good leader can drive the development of the village. Thinking of this, she looked at Uchiha Xingliu. Will he be the captain of the new era? Can he take the village further? Forget it, there is enough time to give me an answer to this question. Uzumaki Mito looked at Danzo, the source of all evil. She looked at everyone and continued to preside over the meeting. For the treatment of Shimura Danzo, let's vote according to the previous rules. After that, she signaled the people next to her to vote, although the people present were shocked by Sarutobi Hiruzen's sudden death, but when they heard that they had to vote to decide on the treatment of Danzo, they all participated one by one. After all, no one wants to go on a mission and come back home with a child gone. This is an act that violates the bottom line and is an unforgivable sin. After a while, the voting ended. With the completion of the statistics, the vote to execute Danzo was passed with 100%. Uzumaki Mito was not surprised by this result. She looked at Uchiha and said, "Leave it to you." Uchiha nodded gratefully, then grinned and walked out of the meeting room with Danzo. In the process of arresting Danzo, even their clan leader was seriously injured. Now that they can kill Danzo, it can be regarded as revenge for them. With the end of the trial of the two chief criminals, the meeting was not over. Now that the Hokage has been lost, Konoha urgently needs a new leader. Everyone is discussing this matter. And as time goes by, most people look at Uzumaki Mito as the wife of the first generation and the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Uzumaki Mito also has a high prestige in the village, not to mention her strength. Just a few small mistakes just now can show that she is stronger than the third generation, so no matter from which aspect, she is suitable to inherit this position. Although Uzumaki Mito doesn't really want to be Hokage in her heart, but in front of the village, her own thoughts are not so important. The feeling of shouldering a heavy burden is that 1,000 people are all looking forward to every word you say. Looking at the expectant eyes of these people, Uzumaki Mito knew that she had to take up this burden. She slowly walked to the middle and said loudly, "Konoha now needs a new Hokage to lead Konoha to move forward. Let me start. I propose myself." These Jonin originally wanted Uzumaki Mito to stand up and take on this important task, so after Uzumaki Mito finished speaking, they all nodded in agreement. Although some ninja clans also want to compete for the position of Hokage, such as the Hyuga clan, they believe that although they cannot call themselves the first ninja clan in Konoha, they are still very strong. But looking at Uzumaki Mito on the stage, they still extinguish their little thoughts. Becoming Hokage does have many benefits, but if there is a situation that harms Konoha, the person may be gone. Judging from Uzumaki Mito's performance today, there is no mercy at all, and judging from the current situation in the meeting room, Uzumaki Mito is the one that everyone expects. Uzumaki Mito waited for a long time, but no one came out to run for the election. She stood there, not knowing what she was thinking about. Perhaps she remembered Senju Hashirama. After a long while, when the people below were talking about it, Uzumaki Mito came back to his senses and said, "In this case, I will lead you all forward. Nara Shikaku, please inform the daimyo and tell him that Konoha's third Hokage unfortunately died of illness. Now I will temporarily take over the position of Hokage." After hearing Uzumaki Mito's words, a man with a pineapple head and a vest stood up. "Yes, Lord Mito." After saying that, Nara Shikaku muttered "it's troublesome," which attracted the people around him to look at him frequently. Uzumaki Mito ignored him. The people of the Nara clan all have this character. Although they said it was troublesome, they did things very well. In name, the Hokage still needs to be selected by the daimyo, but now the third Hokage's affairs are developing too fast, and Konoha has almost selected the next generation at the same time. This will definitely cause dissatisfaction among the daimyo, although the candidate is Uzumaki Mito, which will reduce this dissatisfaction to the extreme. It still needs a smart person to deal with it, so Uzumaki Mito is relieved to hand over this difficult task to Nara. After dealing with the matter on the daimyo's side, she continued. In order to ensure the stability of Konoha, the matter of the third Hokage should not be disclosed for the time being, and we should unify the caliber in the future and say that he died of illness. Wait until the matter on the daimyo's side is confirmed. and then announce it to the villagers. That's it for today, adjourn the meeting. All the things have been completed, and the meeting is finally over. Sometimes, the ship of the old era can also carry the future. Chapter 56. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uzumaki Mito took Uchiha Tsuryu and Nono Usagi back to the Senju mansion. Along the way, Nono Usagi looked at Uzumaki Mito with sparkling eyes. Uchiha Tsuryu recognized this look, which was the same as the star-chasing fans he had seen before. Nono Usagi obviously regarded Uzumaki Mito as her idol. Uzumaki Mito couldn't stand this look. Although some people had targeted her before, they were not so direct, so after returning to the mansion, she left alone because she had something to do. Uchiha Tsuryu didn't find Nono Usagi's behavior strange. After all, Uzumaki Mito could be said to have saved her from danger. In addition to her performance during the meeting, it would be strange if Nono Usagi didn't have this behavior. But Uchiha Tsuryu didn't realize that Nono Usagi was secretly looking at him when he wasn't paying attention. Sometimes, even when she looked at him, her face would unconsciously turn red. Uzumaki Mito is the key figure to solve the problem, but Uchiha Tsuryu is the prince in Nono's heart, whether it is the first time to find out that something is wrong with her, or to protect her from being silenced. All these actions of Uchiha Tsuryu have left a heavy mark in her heart. Although the hero saves the beauty, it is indeed very useful. Tsunade has also arrived at this time. She looked at the two of them in confusion, always feeling that something bad has happened. At the same time, thousands of miles away in the Iron Kingdom, in a huge underground cave, a figure sat inside with his eyes closed and meditating. Boss Madara. Boss Madara. You can never imagine what happened in Konoha. Uchiha Madara opened his eyes, and the samsara eye flashed in his eyes. Obviously, he has not yet successfully opened these eyes of God. Then he looked at Baizetsu, who was running over, and said expressionlessly, "What happened in Konoha?" Baizetsu ran to Uchiha Madara with excitement and shouted loudly, "The third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen is dead. I saw his body with my own eyes." Hearing this, Uchiha Madara was slightly surprised. Although in his eyes, Sarutobi Hiruzen is just a bigger ant, but in today's ninja world, there are only a handful of people who can kill him. Who killed him and how did he die? When Baizetsu heard this, he said tilted his head, and made a natural speech. "I don't know, I only saw Sarutobi Hiruzen's body." Hearing this, even Uchiha Madara felt a little helpless. He rubbed his temple and said in a deep voice, "Tell me everything you know." As if Baizetsu felt Uchiha Madara's impatience, he told him everything he knew. This white Zetsu was sent by Uchiha Madara to monitor Sarutobi Hiruzen. Uzumaki Mito will participate in today's meeting, so it didn't dare to follow. It only saw Sarutobi Hiruzen go in for a short time before being carried out by two people. Then it found that Sarutobi Hiruzen was dead. After hearing everything, Uchiha Madara was helpless, because it was his order to let white Zetsu go around Uzumaki Mito. Uchiha Madara understood that Uzumaki Mito, this woman, had extremely terrifying perception. He would like to call her the strongest, so in order to prevent her from discovering him, he made this decision. Forget it, it's not time to start the plan yet, and the samsara eye still needs time. Thinking of this, Uchiha Madara ignored the white Zetsu who was chattering on the side and closed his eyes again. For Uchiha Madara, his only goal in life now is the Moon Eye plan, and for this plan, he needs the samsara eye to meet the necessary conditions for achieving the goal. The opening of the Moon Eye requires the samsara eye to be the first condition. He has not yet completed the samsara eye. So as long as there is no earth-shaking change in the ninja world, other things are not as important as the samsara eye in his heart. Hashirama, I will prove that I am right. Time is like flowing water, and it passes in the blink of an eye. It has been nearly a month since the death of Sarutobi Hiruzen. The news of the third generation was finally revealed. Just as Uzumaki Mito thought at the beginning, Konoha was still unstable for a while after the news was exposed. The sudden death of the Hokage made the villagers feel a little uneasy. Fortunately, under the leadership of Uzumaki Mito, these anxieties did not turn into reality. On the front battlefield, the other four countries fell into silence. They stopped fighting as if they had a telepathic connection and sent a signal for peace. Uzumaki Mito's reputation is much more useful than Sarutobi Hiruzen, even if it is not obvious. Water, but the reputation of the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki alone is enough to scare people, because the seal is not good. and they cannot compare with the Uzumaki clan. Their own Jinchuriki can only be used as a one-time killer, and at the moment when Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama died, who can stop the nine-tailed beast ball, so they dare not force Konoha. Otherwise, if they really force Uzumaki Mito to the battlefield and give them a few hits, they will really not be able to bear it. The daimyo has also agreed that Uzumaki Mito will be the fourth-generation Hokage, and he also rushed to Konoha today. Above the Konoha building, Uzumaki Mito is wearing the Hokage's clothes, and the cloak with the fourth-generation Hokage's tattoo on his back is fluttering in the wind. She walked to the platform, looked at the villagers gathered downstairs, took a deep breath, and announced loudly, "From now on, I, Mito Uzumaki, will lead you as the fourth generation." As Mito Uzumaki finished speaking, the crowd below also fell into a sea of joy. Uchiha Xingliu was muttering to himself, "I don't know who has been sighing at home these days, saying that he doesn't want to go to work every day." Then he looked at Chinatsu standing next to Mito Uzumaki, with gratitude in his eyes. During the time when Mito Uzumaki was temporarily acting as Hokage, she originally wanted Uchiha Xingliu to do something. What happened before made Mito Uzumaki understand that Uchiha Xingliu was a talented person. Talented people should not be let go. Mito Uzumaki didn't care how old he was, he just wanted to catch him, and this also meant that Uchiha Xingliu was trained as Hokage. But who is Uchiha Xingliu? He originally wanted to be a hands-off boss, and now he was asked to cover for others. Wouldn't that be a death sentence? Fortunately, at this time, Chinatsu stood up. Before this, Uchiha Tsuryu only knew that Chinatsu had the talent to be a ninja, but he didn't expect that she was even more capable as an assistant. She handled the documents that Uzumaki Mito missed due to laziness very well. Under the handling of the two of them, the work of the Hokage could actually be completed on time every day. This also made Uzumaki Mito give up the idea of catching Uchiha Tsuryu and saved his life. "Thank you for Chinatsu's kindness. I will definitely let you be the Hokage's assistant in the future." Chapter 57. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Of course, Uchiha Xingliu has not been idle this month. He has learned a lot of skills. He successfully made the medical charm that he had envisioned. He will wait for Uzumaki Mito to become Hokage and give her this as a gift to surprise her. And this month, Uchiha Xingliu has also supplemented his skills and learned a lot of skills. In the world of Naruto, strong blood means strong talent, and it is not just talk. The autoplay system also brought him a surprise. Although after the skill is upgraded to blue, the autoplay speed of skills at this level is not as fast as before, but the skills below blue have become faster. Uchiha Xingliu looked at his panel in the system and fell into deep thought. Host, Uchiha Tsuryu, Chakra Attribute, all attributes, skills, Mangekyo Sharingan, blue, LV3, Indra Bloodline, Remnant of blue, LV5, Flame Escape Proficiency, blue, LV1, Sealing Technique Proficiency, blue, LV1, Ninjutsu Scroll Making, blue, LV1, Medical Ability Proficiency, blue, LV1, 5 Elements Escape Technique below B-Level Mastery, green. Medicinal Food Proficiency, green, LV1. Hang-Up Bar, Flame Escape Proficiency, blue, LV1, Indra Bloodline, Remnant, blue, LV5, Mangekyo Sharingan, blue, LV3. Combat Power, 3888, Super Shadow, I, Uchiha Tsuryu, can have what I have today, all thanks to my own efforts. 200 is Genin, 200 to 500 is Chunin, 500, 1000 is Jonin, 1000 to 3000 is Shadow Level, 3000 to 10,000 is Super Shadow Level, 10,000 to 50,000 is 6 Paths Level. Please unlock more combat power to learn about the subsequent levels. Tip 1. The host's Mangekyo ability is integrated in the Mangekyo Sharingan, and is not listed separately. Tip 2. When the host's combat power exceeds 3000, the system opens the combat power classification function. Tip 3. Every time the host's ability breaks through to the next level, one more idle bar will be added, and the current idle bar is 3. Tip 4. When the host breaks through the combat power level, the idle speed below the current highest ability level can be increased, and the current is green and below. Tip 5. As the host's ability improves, the AFK system will continue to add functions. In this month, the AFK system has AFK'd out a total of 4 blue skills. the Great Fireball can be directly AFK'd into Flame Release, which is beyond Uchiha Xingliu's expectations. Flame Release is the bloodstains that are sublimated from the fire attribute, but the system is so unreasonable that it is directly AFK'd out. This also gives Uchiha Xingliu a conventional means of dealing with the enemy. And Uchiha Xingliu has a hunch that the mastery level of this Flame Release is too low. Otherwise he can teach this skill to others. Because of the AFK of the system, he also mastered a lot of knowledge about this skill. Therefore, when the mastery level of Flame Release is high, he can replicate this skill on others. However, the premise is that this person has fire chakra and must learn the nature change, and the sealing technique is worthy of being the external level ninjutsu of Naruto. And the mastery has reached the system blue rating. This month, the sealing technique has occupied a whole idle bar, and Uchiha Xingliu has also learned a lot by himself, otherwise he would not have reached the blue level. This also made him realize that even if the ability is of the same level, there are differences between the upper and lower levels. However, the hard work is worth it. The mastery of the flame escape only allows Uchiha Xingliu's combat power to reach more than 2,000. After the sealing technique broke through the blue level, it directly made him the level of Super Shadow. Uchiha Xingliu can now do what Uzumaki Mido did in the conference room, and after the breakthrough, the ability of ninjutsu scroll making, green, appeared. In the subsequent idol, ninjutsu scroll making, green, quickly completed the promotion. Green ninjutsu scroll making can only make ninjutsu scrolls below B level, while blue ones are below A. Of course, this skill can also be taught to others, but this prerequisite is estimated to be learned by Uzumaki Mido. Of course, the production of medical talismans is not that difficult. Of course, the difficulty of learning one thing is much easier than learning all of them, so there will not be a distressing situation where only Uchiha Tsuryu can make such a thing. As for the medical ability, blue, when Uchiha Tsuryu was preparing to make the medical talisman, he found that many medical ninjutsu did not appear. After all, the first medical ninja in the ninja world is still a little kid now, so it is reasonable that many medical skills did not appear, but it was hard for Uchiha Tsuryu, who made him change the Mangekyo Sharingan on the hang-up bar to a medical ninjutsu. He waited until the medical skill reached blue before changing it back. However, in general, this skill is worth the money. No, not only did it complete a lot of medical skills, but it also added a lot of medical ninjutsu suitable for genin to learn. Don't think that everyone will know the Palm Immortal technique in the future, but you have to see who uses this skill. In fact, the difficulty of the Palm Immortal technique is as high as A level, which is not something that ordinary people can learn, but Uchiha Xingliu's medical ability is proficient, and this skill is split. Not only does it greatly reduce the difficulty of learning, but it can also be used by multiple people in cooperation. The technique of extracting fine lesions, which was invented by Tsunade later, was not used by many people in the ninja world at that time, but in the proficiency of medical ability, there is a way for several people to cooperate with each other and use this ninjutsu. And the prerequisite for learning is different from the above skills, and the learning cost is very low. As long as you are a normal graduate genin, you can learn it after a period of study. It can be said that if Uchiha Xingliu wants to, there will be no Tsunade in the future. He is the new generation of the first medical ninja in the ninja world. In fact, during this month, Uchiha Xingliu also thought about learning the handsome and powerful Flying Thunder God technique directly. As a result, after getting it, he was silent, because Flying Thunder God needs to be very proficient in the sealing technique to learn it, so he had no choice but to hang up the sealing technique first. Of course, now that he has mastered the sealing technique, he can already learn this skill. I believe that it won't be long before this ability will appear in his skill bar. What made Uchiha Xingliu think was still those prompts. First of all, his current level was clarified. It also told him clearly that the system is continuously evolving. Not only can it evolve, but there will be more and more functions in the future, and how to increase the skill bar and how to increase the hang-up speed. These were clearly told to Uchiha Xingliu. Compared with the previous Riddler system, I don't know how much better it is. However, the system's combat power comments still want Uchiha Xingliu to complain. He wondered if the system also read novels. Just when Uchiha Xingliu was lost in thought, Tsunade quietly pulled him. This pull brought him back to reality. Then Uchiha Xingliu looked at Tsunade with some confusion. He was just distracted for a while. Why did she pull him? The next moment, a flat voice sounded beside Uchiha Xingliu. Xiao Xingliu, what did I just say? Can you repeat it again? Chapter 58. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uchiha Xingliu stiffly turned his head a little bit. Uzumaki Mito, who was just giving a speech, stood behind him without knowing when, looking at him expressionlessly. Uchiha Xingliu laughed dryly and swallowed his saliva. Mito grandma, you were so handsome just now. Ouch. Before Uchiha Xingliu finished speaking, Uzumaki Mito had already finished knocking his head. Uchiha Xingliu was not annoyed after being knocked. Uzumaki Mito actually didn't use much force, he just pretended to cry out in pain. He touched the place where he was knocked, and smiled foolishly, trying to fool it. Uzumaki Mito rolled his eyes at Uchiha Xingliu, then said. Okay, stop pretending. I'll tell you what I just said again, and you have to listen carefully this time. Just now, Uchiha came to me, and they want you to go to their place. Of course, if you don't want to go, I can also help you refuse. Uchiha Xingliu also straightened his attitude when he heard Uzumaki Mito talking about business. He didn't feel strange when he heard that the Uchiha clan wanted him to go. After all, when he attacked Sarutobi Hiruzen, other people might not have discovered anything about the power of the Mangekyo, but the Uchiha clan would definitely not be able to hide it. Even the Hyuga clan might have noticed something was wrong. But there is one good thing about the Hyuga clan, they don't meddle in other people's business. As for the fact that the Hyuga clan said that they were the first ninja clan in Konoha, that was only after the disappearance of the Senju and the Uchiha clan was excluded. There are some points that make Uchiha Xingliu strange. That is why Uchiha could endure for so long before asking Uzumaki Mito to tell Uchiha Tsuryu that he needed to go back to the clan. This is what Uchiha Tsuryu can't figure out. And there is another point that he needs to pay attention to. Uchiha Madara sent White Zetsu to keep an eye on Uchiha, although he doesn't know when it started. But now there must be a shadow of White Zetsu in the Uchiha clan. He knows that this kind of surveillance is definitely not as good as in the future. After all, Uzumaki Mito's humanoid radar is still in Konoha. Even White Zetsu has to stay away from her. But secrets are no longer secrets if they are known by the second person. There were quite a few Uchiha at the meeting at that time. So many people knew that he had opened the Mangekyo, so he had to prepare for the worst, and it was very likely that he would be targeted by Madara. After all, an Uchiha who opened the Mangekyo is already a very good chess piece. Of course, Uchiha Tsuryu is not afraid of Madara now. Madara's samsara eye has not yet emerged, which requires him to use a lot of chakra to nurture it. In addition to the age problem, his strength is not at its peak. Uchiha Madara does not know Uzumaki Mito's Ein seal. The peak period of a ninja is only so long. Once old, it will inevitably decline in strength. This also applies to Uchiha Madara. Although the super shadow Uchiha Xingliu is not sure to defeat the current Uchiha Madara, he can still escape calmly. Besides, Uzumaki Mito is not a vegetarian. If Uchiha Madara really dares to come, Uchiha Xingliu will dare to cooperate with Uzumaki Mito to let him stay here forever. But now Uchiha Xingliu has no time to go to the Uchiha clan for the time being. He still has important things to give to Uzumaki Mito. Grandma Mito, I have something to give you. Consider it a gift for becoming Hokage. As he spoke, Uchiha Tsuryu took out a stack of paper-like talismans from somewhere and handed them to Uzumaki Mito. Uzumaki Mito looked at the dense spells on the talisman. As a master of sealing techniques, she also became interested for a while. After carefully examining it for a while, she only saw that this thing was somewhat similar to the detonating talisman. Then, she had a flash of inspiration, and her hand holding the talisman trembled, and she looked at Uchiha Tsuryu in disbelief. Is there a ninjutsu sealed in this thing? Uchiha Xingliu looked at the shocked Uzumaki Mito in front of him, deliberately showing an admiring expression, and said. Grandma is worthy of being an expert in sealing techniques. You can see it all. Yes, this thing is a ninjutsu scroll. Not only that, it also seals the palm fairy technique. When using it, just activate the chakra, and then stick the talisman on the injured part, and it can be used automatically. Uzumaki Mito looked at the talisman in his hand with admiration. This epic-making thing was made by a 6-year-old child. This made her even think that she was dreaming, but after being amazed, she seemed to think of something, pick up the talisman in her hand and asked. Xingliu, is this thing difficult to make? Uchiha Xingliu smiled and shook his head, saying. Not difficult. The difficulty of making this thing is similar to that of the detonating talisman. but it requires the cooperation of ninjas who can hold the magic. Hearing this, Uzumaki Mito could no longer suppress his inner joy. With this kind of thing, the death rate of ninjas on missions will decrease in the future. Xingliu, you really gave me an incredible thing. Uzumaki Mito praised Uchiha Xingliu repeatedly, and a wave of praise and combos made him a little overwhelmed. After a long while, Uzumaki Mito pulled up Uchiha Xingliu and Tsunade, and then said to Chinatsu who had been standing by. Little Chinatsu, go and inform the dean of Konoha Hospital and the head of the sealing department, and tell them that I have something to find them. By the way, let them come back in the afternoon. I don't have time for the time being. After that, Uzumaki Mito took them to the Hokage building in a hurry. Uzumaki Mito's action made Uchiha Xingliu full of question marks. After all, the medical talisman, which can immediately increase Konoha's strength and reduce casualties, should be the most important thing. How can he not be anxious? And after arriving at the Hokage building, his question was answered. The daimyo was waiting for them here. Mito sister, long time no see, you are still so young, ninja, really enviable. Uzumaki Mito smiled slightly, not paying attention to the meaning of the daimyo's words. After all, how could she answer such words? Ninjas are not omnipotent, and her ability to stay young is also due to the Yin seal, so she pulled Tsunade and Uchiha Xingliu to the front and said. Daimyo is joking, you are still as charming as the last time we met. These two are my granddaughter Tsunade and grandson Uchiha Tsuryu. I brought them here this time because I need the daimyo's consent for something. The daimyo opened his eyes slightly, glanced at the two of them, and chuckled. I wonder if Sister Mito needs me for anything. Uzumaki Mito took out a contract from her arms and handed it to the daimyo, then said slowly. At the beginning, Hashirama and your father had an agreement that Konoha was established in the land of fire and would help you, the daimyo, resist invasions from other countries. But if we resist, you, the daimyo, will have to reimburse Konoha for all its losses. Now that the Ninja World War is about to end, I wonder when the daimyo's reimbursement money can be transferred. Chapter 59. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As soon as Uzumaki Mito finished speaking, the smile on the daimyo's face froze there. For the daimyo of the land of fire, the war between ninja villages actually has little impact on him. Most of the daimyo of the 5 major countries and even other small countries are related by blood. Even if the ninja village of their own country loses, it is just a loss of face in front of the other winners. And there will be no other losses, but face is just face, and money is a real thing, and war is fought for money, and Konoha has suffered a lot of losses in this war. If the daimyo has to bear all the expenses, he will have to eat dirt next year. But there is no way. This contract was indeed signed by his father back then. At that time, Konoha had 2 gods in the world, which could be said to suppress the world. They can establish Konoha in the land of fire or not in the land of fire, in order to stabilize them. The previous daimyo made many concessions and signed many such things. The signing was very generous. After all, the previous daimyo would not have thought that these 2 people would kill each other, causing Konoha to lose its umbrella so quickly. The daimyo knew that the 3rd generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen could still fool around, but Uzumaki Mito would not talk nonsense to you. If I had known that the envoy was coming, why did I have to come here to join in the fun? Thinking like this, the daimyo's face remained calm, but he still wanted to make a final struggle. The 4th generation is joking. This is the contract of the previous daimyo. It has nothing to do with me. Uzumaki Mito heard this and looked at the daimyo for a while with a smile. He looked at him until his forehead was sweating, and then he slowly said, I heard that the country of whirlpools has beautiful scenery, beautiful mountains, and clear waters, and is very suitable for ninjas to live in. After saying this, the daimyo sweated even more. Although the outcome of the war did not have much impact on the daimyo, it would be different with or without Konoha. The times are different. A country without ninjas cannot defend its own territory. Even if Konoha lost the war, as long as it was not destroyed all at once, the fire country would lose at most a little territory and a share of ninja missions. But if the fire country did not have Konoha, it would be eroded the next day and only the capital would be left. At that time, he was too late to cry, so what Uzumaki Mito said really hit his life. The daimyo laughed, seemingly generous, but actually said with pain. But what the fourth generation said makes sense. The former daimyo is also a daimyo. The most important thing for a person is to have integrity. I will have someone deliver Konoha's losses this time. It's getting late now, so I'll leave first. After being blackmailed with a large sum of money, the daimyo was afraid that there would be some trouble, so he prepared to leave after saying that, but before he could stand up, Uzumaki Mito took out a contract from nowhere and said, "Wait a minute, I have one more thing to do. The previous daimyo also promised to give me and Hashirama's descendants a real noble title. I wonder if the daimyo knows about this." That the daimyo, who had just stood up, stopped when he heard this. He lost the smile he had just pretended to have, and looked at Uzumaki Mito with a sullen face. Uchiha Xingliu, who was watching from the side, exclaimed, "Wow," that he was still thinking about what was more important than the medical talisman, but he didn't expect it to be true. Money is something that the more the better. Konoha must be short of money after the war. The pensions and rewards for ninjas must be paid in full, otherwise, when the war comes next time, you can just see if anyone will go. Uzumaki Mito said one thing after another, which made Uchiha Xingliu very satisfied. Unlike the third generation Hokage, Uzumaki Mito was really tough when he was Hokage. She was just short of printing the word money on the daimyo's forehead, but what she said afterwards made Uchiha Tsuryu understand why he and Tsunade had to come to see the daimyo. Unlike Uchiha Tsuryu's joy, the daimyo of the Land of Fire was really angry this time. For him, the actual enfeefment of a noble was actually nothing. But there is a saying, "I can give, but you can't rob." Uzumaki Mito's strength made him feel the crisis. The Land of Whirlpools was founded by the Uzumaki clan. If he dared to ask for a noble today, would he dare to ask for the position of daimyo tomorrow? This made him think too much. Uzumaki Mito's idea was very simple, whether it was to go to the daimyo to reimburse the war expenses, or to let Uchiha Tsuryu or Tsunade become nobles, he just wanted to use this to send a signal to the outside world. The Land of Fire would fully support Konoha, and Konoha had the ability and confidence to continue fighting. Although the fighting on the battlefield has strangely stopped, no one can guarantee that peace will come. Although Uzumaki Mito is very strong, he has yet to reach the point of dominating the world. The other four nations united because they were concerned about Uzumaki Mito. Even if they were not united, they could still make Konoha suffer. They could also restore peace to the village that was somewhat turbulent because of the sudden death of the third Hokage. As for the daimyo's thoughts, is it important? The Uzumaki clan can establish a country. As a strong woman of the Uzumaki clan, Uzumaki Mito's heart does not have the kind of awe that others have for the daimyo. She is even more dismissive of the idea that the daimyo is the descendant of God. For her, if this daimyo is disobedient, she can just change another daimyo. Perhaps sensing Uzumaki Mito's thoughts, the daimyo's face slowly returned to calm. In that case, let the fourth Hokage decide everything. After you decide who will be the leader, you can come to the hotel and tell me. I'm not feeling well, so I'll take my leave first. The daimyo said and left without looking back. Uzumaki Mito didn't take out another contract this time. After all, she couldn't force people into a corner. After the daimyo left, she looked at the stunned Tsunade and the Uchiha Xingliu who was enjoying the melon. Who of you two will be the noble? Uchiha Xingliu said bluntly. Give it to Tsunade. I don't need this kind of thing. Besides, Tsunade-sama is so nice. Tsunade also came back to her senses at this time. She was really shocked just now. The image of Uzumaki Mito in Tsunade's eyes was broken all of a sudden today. Such a domineering Uzumaki Mito really opened her eyes. After hearing what Uchiha Xingliu said, Tsunade felt a little happy in her heart. He said my name is nice. However, Tsunade, who was somewhat arrogant, did not show it in reality. Instead, she snorted and said, if he doesn't want it, I don't want it either. I want to be a Hokage like my grandmother in the future, not a noble. Uzumaki Mito looked at Tsunade with amusement. For her, Tsunade was someone she had watched grow up with. She knew Tsunade's personality very well, so she knew that Tsunade had actually accepted it, but her personality made her stubborn. Uchiha Tsuryu didn't think so much. He really didn't care about this kind of thing. After all, he might hang up many nobles in the future, so the two of them didn't say anything, just looked at Tsunade quietly. Tsunade felt uncomfortable being looked at by the two of them. After a while of being shy, she finally obeyed her heart. She glanced at the two of them, lowered her head and whispered. I listened to my grandmother. Tsunade-sama is really nice. Chapter 60. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although Tsunade spoke in a low voice, both people present heard it. After they smiled at each other, Uzumaki Mito said to Uchiha Xingliu. Go to Uchiha quickly. It's not easy for them to wait so long to come to you. Uchiha Xingliu nodded after hearing this. Everything was done, and he did have time now. Today is the day when Uzumaki Mito becomes Hokage, and the ninja school has a day off. In fact, in this month, he went to school with a shadow clone after a week. What Doki-chi taught were all dry goods, which were very useful for ordinary ninjas, but it was obviously not suitable for Uchiha Xingliu. For him, it would be better to look at the scrolls of Senju and study the notes of Tobirama. As for the few people in his plan, like him, Orochimaru used the shadow clone instead of going to school after learning it. The real body sometimes practiced on his own, or discussed ninjutsu knowledge with Uchiha Xingliu. Nono is worthy of the title of spy, with great affinity. Not only did she get along well with her classmates in this month, but even Uzumaki Mito didn't know how to help her, and agreed to let Nono live in the Senju mansion. Unfortunately, her talent is not as good as Orochimaru, and she needs to go to school in person. What Uchiha Xingliu can't understand is that every time he split his clone and went to school with Nono, she would look at him with strange eyes. Jiraiya, Uchiha Xingliu also has a plan. He plans to guide Jiraiya to Mayaboku Mountain in a while to find his opportunity. Mayaboku Mountain is Jiraiya's best teacher. Letting him go in advance will not only allow Jiraiya to grow better, it will also let Uchiha Xingliu know whether the prophecy of the great toad sage is omnipotent. And this month, Uchiha Xingliu also inquired about the news of White Fang and learned that he had graduated. This made him a little regretful, but then Uchiha Tsuryu thought of Hatake Tsukumo's own character and decided not to interfere with Baiya's growth. Although Hatake Tsukumo is a strong man, he is actually very loyal. He knew that the rumors were problematic, but he did not resist Sarutobi Hiruzen and others, and only used suicide to express his dissatisfaction. Of course, Baiya's character may also be related to his family heritage. The Hatake family was a samurai family in the past. This may have affected Hatake Tsukumo's character and made him dare not oppose his lord, the Hokage. So as long as Uchiha Tsuryu becomes Hokage in the future, Baiya will naturally be his loyal subordinate, and Baiya will be able to become a ninja of the level of Kage himself in the future. For him who has no bloodline, it is almost his limit, so there is no need for Uchiha Tsuryu to interfere with Baiya. Tsunade has changed a lot in this month, and she doesn't clamor for a holiday. She completes her training silently every day, and asks Uchiha Tsuryu for advice on things she doesn't understand when she has time. Even her favorite gambling, she only tried it briefly, which made Uchiha Xingliu look at her with new eyes. Everything is going well, and Uchiha Xingliu has been very comfortable this month. Now Uchiha needs him to go, which is just a small matter for him. He also went to see what the situation is in the Uchiha clan now, so after saying goodbye to Uzumaki Mito and Tsunade, he came all the way to Uchiha Aang's residence. Yes, the current head of the Uchiha clan is Uchiha Aang. The previous head of the Uchiha clan was seriously injured by Danzo and could no longer be a ninja. In addition to Uzumaki Mito's promotion and his contribution to the Danzo incident, the village's attitude towards Uchiha changed immediately, which also made the Uchiha doves completely prevail. Uchiha Aang became the new leader of the Uchiha clan. When Uchiha Xingliu arrived here, Uchiha Aang and Uchiha Xian had been waiting for a long time for them, although Uchiha Xingliu was just a child. This child opened the Mangekyo Sharingan. No one knew the power of the Mangekyo better than the Uchiha. In the history of Uchiha, every owner of the Mangekyo was one of the strongest. Although Uchiha Xingliu was a child, he could no longer be treated simply as a child, so when they saw Uchiha Xingliu, they had already lined up to welcome him. Uchiha Aang walked up to him and said with a smile on his face, Xingliu-jun, welcome back to Uchiha, let's go in and talk. After saying that, he saw Uchiha Xingliu nod, and led him all the way to the reception room. After the attendants put down some food and tea for the reception and left, Uchiha Aang continued, I won't beat around the bush. I asked Xingliu to come back this time just to ask you one thing. The symbol of Uchiha's power, the Mangekyo Sharingan, has Xingliu opened it? Uchiha is direct, and Uchiha Xingliu is no exception. This clan is described as people with high emotional intelligence. Sometimes they are quite straightforward, so he didn't say anything, and the next second, the sealing technique began to cover the entire room. Uchiha looked at him in shock and lost his voice for a while. After all, an Uchiha is so good at sealing techniques. Which clan are you from? And Uzumaki Mido adopted Uchiha Xingliu for only a month or two. The sealing technique used gave Uchiha the feeling that it was stronger than Uzumaki Mido's, and Uchiha Xian, who had been silent behind him, looked at Uchiha Xingliu vigilantly, but the next second, the things they dreamed of appeared in front of them. A pair of kaleidoscopes that looked like the eyes of Samsara were opened by Uchiha Xingliu. Looking at the small figure in front of them, they were all a little absent-minded for a moment, distracted by the shock brought by Uchiha Xingliu, who had never been seen before and would probably never be seen again. After confirming that the sealing technique completely covered the room, Uchiha Xingliu opened the kaleidoscope. After all, fire prevention, theft prevention and Uchiha Madara prevention, he did not have the perception of Uzumaki Mido, and he did not want others to know about the following conversation. Looking at the two people who were absent-minded, Uchiha Xingliu coughed lightly and said, "I have indeed opened the kaleidoscope. I wonder if Chifeng has anything to say." That the two were pulled back by the cough, and then heard what Uchiha Xingliu said. Uchiha did not know what to say, although had thought that Uchiha Xingliu had opened the kaleidoscope before he came, but when it really came to the moment of confirmation, he still did not know what to say. Let Uchiha Xingliu return to Uchiha, or give him the clan leader. Finally, Uchiha Aang's mind turned rapidly, and he didn't know what happened, so he said something that made Uchiha Xingliu cough. "Do you want a wife or not?"